"Ma'am, there's something about your son you must know," his boss said, standing on my front porch like a shadow that didn't belong to that afternoon. For a second I thought I hadn't heard him right. The screen door creaked between us. The wind was cold, and I felt my hand gripping the edge so tight my knuckles went white. My first instinct was to smile, to be a polite Southern lady like my mama raised me to be. But the way that man was looking at me, Lord, it felt like someone had just opened a window in the middle of winter inside my chest. My name is Margaret Sullivan, but everybody around here calls me Maggie. I'm 72 years old, born and raised right here in Asheville, North Carolina, in this same little house with the peeling white paint and the porch swing that still squeaks the way it did when my husband was alive. I spent 35 years as a community nurse, walking into folks' homes when nobody else wanted to, cleaning wounds, checking blood pressure, listening to stories and secrets. I raised my boy David alone after a drunk driver took my husband when David was 5. So when somebody shows up at my door talking about your son, you just listen to me now. That's not something I take lightly. Before I tell you what happened next, sweetheart, do me a small favor. Down there in the comments, tell me what city you're listening from. I really do want to know how far a story like mine can travel, because if it reached you, maybe it's because you or someone you love needs to hear it. I pushed the door open a little wider and stepped aside. "Well, don't just stand there freezing, Mr. I said, even though I already knew his name. I'd met him twice at company picnics, the kind of man who always looked like his shirt was starched even when it wasn't. "Foster, ma'am. Gerald Foster," he replied, holding that leather briefcase like it weighed 100 pounds. His eyes weren't the same as Nos Dias de Festa, though. That day, they were heavy, like he was carrying something he didn't want to say. "Come in," I told him. "If there's something about my son I need to know, we're not going to discuss it on my front porch where the whole street can read lips." We walked into my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd packed David's lunch every morning for school, where his little sneakers used to squeak on the linoleum, where he'd sit at the table and do his math homework while I boiled potatoes and stretched chicken to last 3 days. I put the kettle on because that's what you do when bad news comes. You give it a chair and a cup of tea. "Sugar? Honey?" I asked. He just shook his head, then sat down at the table like a man walking into his own execution. "Mrs. Sullivan," he started, and my stomach clenched. Nothing good ever comes after somebody takes a deep breath and says your name like Isso. I studied his face while the kettle started to hum. One thing about being a nurse, you learn to read people. You learn the difference between pain and guilt, between fear and regret. What I saw em seus olhos não era fofoca, não era intriga de escritório. Era outra coisa. "This about his work performance?" I asked, trying to give him a softer place to land. "Because David's always been responsible. He's never missed a payment, never been late to anything in his life. That boy color-coded his Legos, for heaven's sake." Mr. Foster looked at me then, really low, and I saw it. Pity. "Oh, good Lord, how I hate that look." "I wish it was just that, ma'am," he said softly. "I truly do." The kettle screamed right when my heart started to. I turned my back for a second to pour the water, just to have something for my hands to do besides shake. "You know, Mr. Foster," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "mothers usually hear bad news about their kids when they're still in school. Fights, bad grades, not when they're 40 and managing projects and paying mortgages." I turned around with 2 mugs of tea and set one in front of him. "So you're going to have to be clear with me. No walking around the barn. What exactly has my son done?" My voice came out firmer than I felt, but I've walked into too many hospital rooms to crumble just because a man in a suit looks nervous. He opened the briefcase with hands that weren't as steady as the rest of him looked. Papers, folders, a manila envelope with my last name written on it. Sullivan. My heart dropped a few inches when I saw that. "Mrs. Sullivan," he said, he's been telling you some things that aren't true, about where the money's coming from, about some arrangements that involve your name." I felt a cold wave run from the top of my head down to my heels. "My name?" I repeated. "You better explain that real careful, Mr. Foster, because my name is just about the only thing I have left that's mine." He slid the envelope across the table toward me, but kept his fingers on it for a moment, like he was hesitant to let go. "Your son, has been using you as a guarantor, ma'am," he said quietly. "And that's the kinder way to put it. There are documents with your signature on them tied to some very large sums of money. Loans, agreements, things he told the board you knew about." For a second, everything in the room went quiet. The clock on the wall, the kettle cooling, even the little hum of the refrigerator seemed to fade. All I could hear was my own pulse in my ears. "That's impossible," I said. "I don't sign anything without reading it. Not since the day we lost this house almost 40 years ago. I learned my lesson, and I've never forgotten. So either there's been some mistake or someone's been doing more than just lying." He nodded, like he'd been expecting me to say exactly that. "I believe you," he said. "And I'm not here on behalf of the company today. I'm here, well, I suppose you could say I'm here as a man with a conscience." He lowered his voice. "David told us you were sick, that you didn't understand much anymore, that you trusted him to handle all your affairs. He cried in that conference room, Mrs. Sullivan. Said he was just trying to take care of you. Some of the board felt sorry for him. But numbers don't cry, and numbers don't lie." The gaps kept getting bigger. The explanations stopped making sense. He paused, searching my face. "Do you have any idea what your son's been doing with your name?" I sat back in my chair and folded my hands in my lap so he wouldn't see them tremble. Sick. Didn't understand much anymore. Those words burned more than anything else. Me, the woman who could still recite medication schedules from memory, who kept every bill in a folder labeled by month, who knew where every document in this house was stored. "Let me tell you something, Mr. Foster," I said slowly. "My mind is just fine. My legs complain and my back fusses, but up here?" I tapped my temple. "Up here I'm still the same Maggie who used to catch interns lying about charting vitals. So, no, I don't know what my son's been doing with my name. But I suppose I'm about to find out." He finally let go of the envelope. It sat between us like a small coffin. "In here," he said, "are copies of the documents we have on file. I shouldn't be showing you these. It could cost me my job. But I've got a mother too, ma'am. And if my brother ever tried to pull something like this with her, I'd want someone to warn us before it was too late." His voice cracked just a little at the end. For a man who'd probably fired people without blinking, that crack said a lot. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Why today?" He hesitated, and in that hesitation, I felt something terrible standing just outside the room, waiting to be let in. "Because," he said finally, "this morning, David submitted one more document, the biggest one yet. And if it goes through, you won't just be in trouble on paper, Mrs. Sullivan. You could lose this house, everything. And the company, well, they might decide to press charges once all this comes to light." He looked down at his hands. "On both of you." For the first time that afternoon, I felt something hotter than fear rise up in my chest. Anger. Not wild, screaming anger. A cold, sharp anger, the tipo que corta, the kind that makes you see things clearer, not blurrier. "So what you're telling me," I said slowly, "is that my son has been lying to his company, lying to me, using my name to dig a hole, and now he's throwing dirt back at my own front door." Mr. Foster didn't deny it. He just looked at me with those tired eyes and said, "I'm telling you that you still have a very small window to do something before that last document is fully processed. After that, it'll be a lot harder to untangle." I glanced toward the living room, where the old family pictures sat on the mantel. David as a boy with missing teeth. David at his high school graduation. David holding his own baby girl the day she was born, crying into my shoulder and saying, "Mama, I'm going to do right by her. I promise." I thought about every night I'd worked double shifts so he could go to college, every pair of shoes I'd worn until the sole almost kissed the street, just so he never had to feel poor. I pulled the envelope closer, feeling the rough paper under my fingertips, and something inside me shifted. You know, honey, there's a moment in a person's life when they stop just surviving and start fighting back. Quietly, maybe, but fighting all the same. I wasn't some confused old woman who signed whatever piece of paper her son waved under her nose. I was Margaret Sullivan, the woman who had walked into strangers' homes in the middle of the night to stop bleeding, to calm fevers, to hold hands that were afraid to let go. If my own son thought he could rewrite my story behind my back, he was about to remember Kem mi kriu. I took a deep breath, slid my thumb under the flap, and tore the envelope open. The papers inside were neatly clipped together, my name printed in black ink at the top of every page. And then, halfway down the first sheet, I saw it. My own signature. My own name, in my own handwriting, on a document I had never seen before in my life. When I saw that signature, my whole body went still, sweetheart. It was like the air in the kitchen got thicker, heavier, almost sticky. I kept staring at those curves and loops on the page, the way the M of Margaret always leans a little to the right, the way I cross my T a bit higher than most folks. It looked exactly like mine, not close, not similar, mine. But I had never touched that document a day in my life. "Take your time," Mr. Foster murmured, his voice low, cautious, like he was afraid I might fall apart right there on the tile floor. I didn't. I wouldn't give anyone that satisfaction. I just kept breathing slow, the way I used to teach my patients when they were about to hear something they didn't want to hear. In, out, in, out. That's what I told myself. I lifted the page closer to my face, my eyes narrowing. "This is my handwriting," I whispered. "But I didn't write a damn word of this." Mr. Foster nodded once, solemn. "We suspected forgery. Honestly, if you'd signed even one of these, I think you'd have remembered." "Oh, I'd have remembered," I said. I still remember signing David's permission slip for his third-grade field trip to the Science Museum. I remember signing the form to donate my husband's organs. I remember every signature that ever mattered in my life. I tapped the paper with my finger. "This ain't one of them." Before he could respond, the front porch boards creaked. Just one step, just one footfall. But I knew that sound. Every mother knows the way her child walks, the rhythm, the weight, the pause before knocking. I felt something sink inside me. "Is that?" Mr. Foster whispered. "Yes," I breathed. "That's my son." I folded the papers quickly and slid them under a magazine on the table. Then I straightened my back, wiped the tremor from my hands, and walked to the door like a woman who'd spent her whole life holding other people together. When I opened it, David stood there, keys in one hand, phone in the other, wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, Mom," he said, leaning forward to kiss my cheek like everything was perfectly normal. "Thought I'd stop by. Patricia wanted me to check on you." "Check on me." Good Lord. I forced a smile. "Well, isn't that thoughtful?" He stepped inside and froze when he saw Mr. Foster in my kitchen. "Gerald?" David's voice jumped an octave. What are you doing here?" Mr. Foster stood slowly, adjusting his tie. "David?" he said, polite but stiff. "We were having a conversation." David laughed, a weird, dry laugh that didn't sound like him. "Mom, what is this? What are you two talking about?" I could feel the heat of that manila envelope under the magazine like it was radiating through the wooden table. I crossed my arms. "We were talking," I said carefully, "about signatures." The color drained from David's face, just a shade, but enough for a mother to notice. "Signatures," he repeated. "What signatures?" "Oh, sweetheart," I said softly. "You know exactly which ones." He swallowed hard, the muscles in his jaw twitching. "Mom, I don't know what he told you, but—" "Oh, he didn't have to tell me much," I cut in. "Just pieces. The rest I can figure out myself." Mr. Foster cleared his throat. "I should leave. Mrs. Sullivan, remember what I said. You still have time. Not much, but some?" David snapped toward him. "You had no right coming here," he hissed. "None. You think you can just walk into my mother's house." I stepped between them, tiny as I am, but firm like a wall. "David Sullivan," I said, "you lower your voice in my kitchen." The silence that followed was heavy, weighted. David backed off a step, breathing fast. "Mom, I can explain everything, I swear." "Oh, I'm sure you can," I said, "and I'll listen, but not right now, not while I'm trying to sort out what's real and what's not." Mr. Foster nodded at me, grabbed his coat, and left without another word. The moment the door clicked shut behind him, David spun toward me. "Mom, listen, he's twisting things. He hates me. He's been trying to make me look bad for months. You know how jealous people get when someone climbs too fast in the company. I simply looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time in my whole life, I didn't recognize the man standing in front of me. His voice was fast, sharp, rehearsed. His eyes darted to the magazine covering the envelope. He wasn't checking on me. He wasn't dropping by. He was searching for something. And I saw it. Right there. A flicker of panic. "David," I asked quietly, "did you sign something? Using my name?" His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Mom, it's not what you think." "That's a yes," I said. "No," he snapped, then softened his tone again so quick it almost made me dizzy. "No, Mom. I mean, it's complicated, okay? Look, Patricia and we've been under some pressure. Some financial stuff happened. Nothing illegal," he added quickly. Just some tight spots. And I needed a guarantor." "You could have asked me," I said. "You would have said no." "You're damn right I would have." His face twisted. Annoyance, anger, something darker. "Mom, you don't understand how things work anymore. Everything's faster, bigger, riskier. Sometimes you have to cut corners. Forging my name ain't a corner, David. It's a cliff." He looked away, jaw tightening. "Mom, I promise I'll fix it. I'll take care of it. Just give me the envelope." There it was. The real reason he'd come. "I don't have any envelope," I lied smoothly. His eyes narrowed. "Mom, David." We stood there, two statues carved from different decades of life. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, Patricia's name flashing, and his face changed again. Tense, urgent. "I have to go," he muttered. "We'll talk later." And just like that, he rushed out, the porch boards creaking under his feet as he nearly ran to his car. I waited until I heard the engine fade down the street before I returned to the table. My hands shook only a little as I pulled the manila envelope back into the light. I opened it again. This time I studied every page, every signature, every lie. And at the bottom of the stack, something new, something I hadn't noticed before. A form with a pending date for final processing. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. One checkmark away from transferring my house, into a joint asset under David's name, and a second signature line he intended to forge. My mouth went dry. I sat back slowly and whispered to myself, "He's planning to do it again." And then, behind me, my front door creaked open. Someone had come back. The moment I heard that door creak open behind me, sweetheart, every hair on the back of my neck stood up. I didn't move right away. Years como enfermeira me ensinaram. Quando o perigo entra num cômodo, não é sempre o mais rápido que vence. É o mais calmo, o mais atento, o que respira fundo antes de reagir. I kept my eyes on the documents spread on the table, pretending I hadn't heard a thing. Whoever it was, I'd let them make the first move. "Mrs. Sullivan?" a familiar voice whispered. "It's just me, honey." I turned slowly and saw Evelyn, my neighbor, minha melhor amiga por mais de 50 anos, standing there with her little knit cardigan and her purse pressed tight against her chest. The air left my lungs so fast I almost laughed with relief. "Good Lord, woman, you scared 10 years off my life," I said, pressing a hand over my heart. "Well, bless your heart," she said, closing the door softly behind her. "You left the porch unlocked. Thought I'd check on you." She tilted her head, those sharp blue eyes scanning my face. "You look like you just wrestled a ghost." I sat down slowly. "Evelyn, you won't believe what just walked into my house today." "Try me," she said, already pulling out a chair. "You know I love a good story," so I told her. Not everything. Not the signatures just yet. Not the pending transfer. But enough. Enough for her eyes to widen. Enough for her to put both hands flat on the table like she needed it to steady herself. "That boy forged your name," she whispered, like saying it out loud might break a window. "He did more than forge it," I said. "He's been playing with my whole life like it's a deck of cards." She shook her head slowly. "I knew something was off with him, Maggie. The way he's been strutting around town lately, acting like money's just fallen from the sky. But your name? Lord have mercy." I pushed the envelope toward her. "Look." She flipped through a few pages, her lips pressing tight, eyes hardening with every signature she saw. Then she reached the last document, the one dated for tomorrow morning, and she froze. "Maggie," she whispered, "this says your house will be tied to him legally. Permanently." "I know. And if he signs that bottom line before 8 a.m.? "I know." She looked up. "So what are you going to do?" I leaned back, breathing slow and steady. "I'm going to stop him." She nodded once, like she expected nothing less. "All right then. You want me to call someone? The pastor? The police? A lawyer?" "Not yet," I said. "I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with first. If I call the police right now and the documents aren't fully processed yet, David could twist the story. Say I'm confused. Say I panicked." I tapped my temple. "He's already telling people I'm losing it. If I make one wrong move, he'll use it." Evelyn exhaled sharply. "Well, he's about to find out your mind works better than most folks half your age." I stood and walked to the counter, grabbing a small notebook, the same one I've kept since my nursing days. Every bill paid, every appointment, every name of every patient I ever visited. I flipped it open to a fresh page and wrote 3 words at the top. "Tomorrow. 8 a." Evelyn watched me carefully. "What's your plan?" "I'm not sure yet," I admitted. "But I know one thing. I'm not letting that boy take what I built." For a moment we just stood there in the quiet. Then Evelyn reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You tell me what you need, Maggie. Anything." I nodded. "Tonight, I need to go through every drawer in this house, every folder, every document. If he forged my signature once, he might have done it before. Want me to stay and help? Please." So we began. We went room by room, living room, hallway closet, the old wooden desk in the spare bedroom. And let me tell you, honey, it's strange the things you rediscover when you start digging in the corners of your own life. I found birthday cards from my husband, grocery lists from decades ago, a faded drawing David made when he was 6, a picture of me holding his hand at the zoo. "Mommy is brave," he'd scribbled on the bottom in crooked letters. That nearly broke me, but I kept going. Evelyn searched the desk drawers while I dug through the little safe I kept hidden behind a box of Christmas decorations. Birth certificate, marriage license, house deed from '64, insurance forms, every paper as clean as I remembered. Then Evelyn gasped. "Maggie," she said, holding up a folder I didn't recognize. "This wasn't here last month." My stomach dropped. "Let me see." Inside were photocopies, dozens of them, financial statements, loan forms, notes scribbled in handwriting that wasn't mine. And near the bottom, a post-it note. One single line written on it. "Tuesday, 8 a.m. Do it before she notices." My blood ran cold. Evelyn looked at me, her face pale. "That's tomorrow." I held the note between my fingers, feeling the ugly truth soaking in. "He planned it down to the minute," she whispered. "Maggie, your own son." But I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I didn't break. Because something else rose inside me. Something that felt almost like steel. "If he thinks he's the only smart one in this family," I said slowly, "he's got another thing coming." Evelyn straightened her shoulders. "So what now?" I closed the folder. "Tomorrow morning, before he signs anything, I'm going somewhere. Someone who can help me stop him legally." "Who?" I lifted my eyes to hers. "Officer Helen Drake. The same officer who helped me years ago when a neighbor tried to scam an elderly woman down the road. The same officer who once told me, 'If you ever need anything, call me first.'" Evelyn nodded firmly. "You want a ride?" "I want to be waiting in that parking lot before sunrise." "And tonight?" I looked toward my front door, the shadows stretching long across the floorboards. "Tonight," I whispered, "I need to make sure David doesn't come back looking for that envelope." Evelyn frowned. "You think he would?" I didn't answer, because right then, right as she asked, 3 soft knocks echoed on my front door. Slow, measured, careful. Not a stranger, not a neighbor. Someone who knew exactly how to knock in a way that wouldn't alarm me. Evelyn's eyes widened, and I felt my pulse thunder in my throat. He was back. When those 3 soft knocks came at my door, sweetheart, my heart didn't just jump. It listened. I knew that knock. Not the frantic kind you hear when something's on fire, not the sharp rap of a stranger who wants to sell you something. No. This was gentle, careful, like someone trying real hard not to scare an old lady. And that, you just listen to me now, scared me more than any loud pounding ever could. Evelyn's hand squeezed my arm. "Don't open it," she whispered. "Not yet." I nodded, but I knew I couldn't just stand there forever. Whoever was out there already believed I was alone and easy to handle. They didn't know I had 40 years de experiência lendo mentira no rosto dos outros, e uma amiga teimosa na cozinha. Before I tell you who was waiting on the other side of that door, do me a favor, honey. Scroll down there and tell me what city you're watching from. I mean it. Sometimes, when the house gets too quiet at night, I like to imagine all the little lights no mapa, gente de todo canto ouvindo minha voz. Talvez sua cidade esteja entre elas. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and walked toward the front door. Every step felt like it echoed inside my chest. I didn't rush. Fear makes you move fast. Wisdom makes you go steady. When I reached the door, I didn't fling it wide open like some scared rabbit. I just unlatched the chain and opened it a crack. David stood there. He had that same half-smile he'd worn earlier, but it didn't reach his eyes now either. His hair was a little messed up, like he'd run his hand through it a dozen times. "Hey, Mom," he said softly. "Sorry, I forgot something." His eyes darted over my shoulder, sharp and quick. Is Mr. Foster still here?" "No," I said, keeping my voice calm. "He left a while ago." David's shoulders relaxed, just a fraction. "Good," he mumbled, then caught himself. "I mean, that's fine. Can I come in for a second?" I thought about saying no. Oh, I thought about it. But shutting the door in your own son's face is harder than people think. Instead, I opened it wider and stepped aside. "Come on in then," I said. "But I'm not in the mood for any more surprises today." As soon as he stepped into the living room and saw Evelyn at the kitchen table, his jaw clenched. "Oh," he said, "didn't know you had company." Evelyn gave him a smile that could cut glass. "Evening, David," she said. "We were just catching up." His eyes flicked to the table, to the magazines, to the shadows where I'd tucked that envelope out of sight. He was scanning the room like a man who'd lost his wallet. "What did Mr. Foster say to you, Mom?" he asked, voice too casual. "He's under a lot of stress lately. Might have said some things out of turn." "He said enough," I replied. "He showed me some things, too." David swallowed. His Adam's apple bobbed like he'd just realized the water was deeper than he thought. "Look," he said, "I was going to talk to you about all that. I swear. I needed to come by and clear the air." "Funny," Evelyn murmured. "You sound more like someone coming to clear a table." He ignored her. "Mom," he said, switching to that soft, wounded tone he used when he was a teenager trying to talk his way out of trouble. "I would never do anything to hurt you. You know that. Everything I've done, everything, is to protect you. To make sure you're secure in case something happens." I tilted my head. "In case what happens, David?" He blinked. "Well, you know, you're getting older. If something happens to you, we need the house set up right, legally. Joint assets, trusts, that kind of thing. It's just paperwork. Paperwork with my name forged on it," I said quietly. His lips parted. "Mom, it's not forgery, okay? It's more like pre-authorization." Evelyn let out a short, bitter laugh. "That's a new one. I'll be darned." He shot her a look, then turned back to me, eyes wide and pleading. "Mom, listen to me. The company's just scared, that's all. They blew things out of proportion. Mr. Foster's been after me for months. He wants my job. If he convinced you I'm some kind of criminal, he wins. You forged my signature, David." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "Okay, maybe I copied it, but only because I knew you'd freak out if I brought you all those forms. You hate legal papers. You always say they're written to confuse regular people. Confusing ain't the same as criminal." His jaw tightened again. "You're overreacting, Mom." I looked at him for a long moment. Then I did something he did not expect. I smiled. Not a warm smile. Not a forgiving one. A small, knowing smile. You might be right, I said calmly. Maybe I am overreacting. I'm tired. It's been a long day. My old brain might not be what it used to be, right? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Evelyn turn her head toward me sharply. She knew I was playing a part. David relaxed. Just like that. The tension drained from his shoulders. Exactly, he said quickly. You're stressed. We all are. That's why I brought this. He reached into his leather folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper, already printed, already prepared. He laid it gently on the table between us, carefully keeping his hand on the top edge, covering part of the text. This is what I was really going to ask you to sign, he said. It just says I have your permission to help manage your finances if you ever get sick. That's all. There's nothing scary in it, I promise. Evelyn opened her mouth, but I gave her the smallest shake of my head. Let me see, I said, reaching for the paper. He hesitated for half a second, then moved his hand aside. And there it was, my name already typed in, a line for my signature, legal language about transferring authority, words like irrevocable and binding and unconditional consent, no mention of sickness, no mention of limits. My eyes moved faster than he realized. He thought age had slowed me down. Bless his heart. I set the paper back down. My eyes are a little tired tonight, I said. You mind if I sleep on it and look it over properly in the morning? David stiffened. Mom, it's really simple. It'll take 2 seconds. Just sign and I'll take it with me. That way I can give it to the company first thing in the morning and clear everything up. Evelyn cleared her throat. Most folks sign legal documents at a bank or a notary last I checked. Not in a kitchen at night. He ignored her again. Mom, please. If you don't sign tonight, it complicates everything. I'm not signing anything tonight, I said gently but firmly. I may be old, but I'm not stupid. His eyes flashed, just for a moment. That mask he kept trying to hold up slipped, and I caught a glimpse of something cold behind it. He forced a smile. Fine, he said. We'll do it in the morning. I'll swing by around, say, 7? We can go over it together before my meeting, okay? 7 a.m., I repeated. Sure. He gathered the paper, slid it back into his folder, and kissed my cheek mechanically. Love you, Mom, he muttered. I know you do, I answered. We watched from the window as he walked to his car, phone already pressed to his ear, mouth moving fast in the dark. The headlights cut across my front yard and vanished down the street. Evelyn turned to me. You're not really planning to meet him at 7, are you? I shook my head. No. At 7, I plan to be somewhere else. Where? I picked up my little notebook, flipped back to the page that said, tomorrow, 8 a.m., and wrote one more line under it. Call Helen. Leave before sunrise. Then I walked to the phone on the wall, dialed the number Officer Helen Drake had given me years ago, and listened as it started to ring. Once, twice, 3 times. And just as it was about to go to voicemail, someone knocked on my back door. The knock on the back door hit me harder than the ring of the phone. Honey. Front doors are for company. Back doors are for people who think they belong. I had the receiver pressed to my ear, listening to the ringing, when that soft, steady tapping came again from the kitchen entrance that faced my backyard. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. I froze for half a second, then did what I always did as a nurse when too many alarms went off at once. I picked the one that mattered most right now. I tightened my grip on the phone and whispered, Evelyn, stay there. Don't open that door. She nodded, eyes wide, already moving to stand between the back entrance and the table where all my papers were spread. Before I tell you what I heard on that line and who was standing on my back porch, do me a favor, sweetheart. Drop a comment and tell me which city you're listening from. When I sit here in this quiet kitchen, it comforts me to think of all the little dots on the map where my story is traveling. Maybe your town is one of them. On the 4th ring, a woman's voice finally came through. Drake here. Firm, clear, no nonsense. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Helen, I said, keeping my voice low so whoever was at the back door wouldn't hear. It's Margaret Sullivan. There was a tiny pause. Maggie? Everything okay? I almost laughed. No, sweetheart, I said. But I think you already knew that call would come someday. I need your help. and I need it before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning." The knocking came again, a little sharper this time. Evelyn glanced at me and mouthed, "Who is it?" I shook my head. "Helen," I continued, turning away from the door. "My son's been forging my name on legal documents. His boss came by today, showed me copies. One of them goes through at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and if it does, I could lose my house, and maybe end up in trouble for something I never agreed to." There was no shock on the other end of the line, just a slow exhale. "All right," Helen said. "First question, are you safe right now?" I looked at Evelyn, standing there like a little soldier with her cardigan and her knobby hands clenched into fists. "For the moment, yes," I said. "But someone is knocking on my back door like they expect me to open it and smile." "Don't open it," Helen said immediately. "Is it your son?" "I don't know yet." Helen's tone sharpened. "Is your back door locked?" Evelyn raised her voice just enough to answer. "It is now." I heard the click of the deadbolt as she turned it. "Good," Helen said. "Listen to me, Maggie. I need you to gather every document that has your name and any signature on it. Put them in a folder. Don't hand them to anyone, not even your son. I want to see them myself first thing in the morning. Can you be at the station by 6:30? 6:30? I repeated. "That's awfully early for an old lady." "You were a nurse for 35 years, she said. "I'm guessing you've seen plenty of 5 a.m. sunrises." I smiled despite myself. "You're not wrong." "Good. Come in the back entrance, bring your neighbor if you'd like, and ask for me personally. We'll make a statement, log those documents, and I'll put a hold request on anything tied to your house until we sort this out." The knocking stopped. The silence that followed made my skin prickle. "Maggie?" Helen asked. "You still with me?" "I'm here," I said. "Whoever it is just stopped knocking." Evelyn tilted her head, listening. We heard faint footsteps on the wooden steps, then the squeak of the backyard gate. "They're leaving," Evelyn whispered. "Or circling," I muttered. Helen's voice softened, but stayed firm. "Lock every door and window tonight. If your son or anyone else shows up and starts trouble, you call 911 first, then me. Don't argue with anybody. Don't sign anything. Don't let them talk you into just trusting family. Understood?" "Oh, I understand," I said. "I've trusted family all my life. Look where that's got me." She was quiet for a moment. "Maggie, I need to tell you something off the record." My fingers tightened around the receiver. "Go on." "Your son's name came across my desk 2 weeks ago," she said. "Financial irregularities, possible elder exploitation. It was flagged but not assigned yet. I had a feeling it was tied to you. I was planning to visit you next week." I closed my eyes. "Well, seems like he moved up your schedule for you, doesn't it?" "Yeah," she sighed. "It does." We hung up with a plan. 6:30 at the station, all my papers in a folder, Evelyn at my side. I stood there for a moment, the dial tone buzzing in my ear like a fly, then slowly set the phone back on its hook. "Who was at the door?" Evelyn asked. "I don't know," I said. But whoever it was didn't want to leave a calling card. We moved through the house together, checking locks, the front door chain, the side window latches, even the old basement door I rarely used. Years of living alone had made me careful. Years of being a mother had made me watchful. Tonight, both parts of me were fully awake. When we finally reached the back door, I flipped on the porch light. The yellow glow spilled across the small concrete step and the patch of grass beyond. No one there. Just my old lawn chair and the shadow of the maple tree stretching long and thin. Then I saw it. A folded piece of paper slipped under the doormat. My stomach tightened. "He wouldn't be that obvious," I whispered. "Would he?" Evelyn frowned. "Could be a flyer, or one of those church kids leaving verses again." "At my back door?" I shook my head. "No, this is for me." I opened the door just enough to reach down, grabbed the paper, and pulled it inside before closing and locking it again. My hands didn't shake, not much anyway, as I unfolded it. Inside was a single sentence, printed in block letters with a black marker. "Mom, please don't go to the police. We can fix this as a family." Evelyn let out a bitter little snort. "He sure writes like a man who's not guilty, huh?" I stared at the note for a long moment, feeling that cold, sharp anger again. He knew me well enough to know this would hurt more than threats. Family. The word I'd built my whole life around. The word he was now using like a chain. You know what this tells me? I said quietly. That he's scared? Evelyn guessed. That he's worried, I corrected. Scared people run. Worried people plan. He's planning something for tomorrow. He wouldn't be begging me to stay quiet if he thought he had this under control. Evelyn folded her arms. So what are you going to do? I walked back to the table, picked up my little notebook, and wrote under the line that said, "Call Helen. Leave before sunrise. Do not show note to David." Then I slipped the note into the same folder as the forged documents. I'm going to do exactly what I told Helen I'd do, I said. I'm going to the police, and I'm going to make sure they hear my side before his. Evelyn nodded slowly, a spark in her eyes. That's the Maggie I know. We made coffee then, strong and dark, and set my old alarm clock for 5 o'clock. Evelyn insisted on sleeping in the armchair in the living room. Just in case, she said. I let her. Truth is, it was easier to fall asleep knowing I wasn't the only heartbeat in the house. When the alarm finally screamed in the dark, I woke up with my decision already made, my clothes already laid out, my folder already packed. I dressed, brushed my hair back, and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. 72. Wrinkles, tired eyes, but not broken. Let's go do this, I told my reflection. 15 minutes later, with the sky still black and the streetlights buzzing, I opened my front door to head to Evelyn's car. And there, sitting quietly on my porch swing like he'd been waiting all night, was David. David sitting on my porch swing at 5:30 in the morning. Well, honey, that image will stay burned in my mind for the rest of my days. The porch light cast just enough glow to show the dark circles under his eyes and the way he was gripping the chain of the swing like it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. He looked up the moment he heard the door open. Mom, he said softly. Not angry, not demanding, soft, too soft. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. The cold air hit my face, waking me up faster than the coffee I'd gulped. I kept one hand on the doorframe, the other on the folder tucked under my coat, close to my ribs. That folder felt like a shield, or maybe a weapon. Depends on how tomorrow treats you. David, I replied, you're out here early. He stood slowly, brushing off his slacks. He was dressed like he'd slept in his clothes, and his tie was stuffed in his jacket pocket. I didn't sleep, he said. I've been thinking a lot. I nodded once. I imagine you have. He took one step toward me. Just one. Mom, we need to talk. Before I answered, I did what any cautious old woman would do when something feels off. I glanced to the driveway. Evelyn's car lights were already on. She was waiting with the engine running, and Lord bless that woman, she didn't honk or wave. She just stayed there like a guard dog made of bones and knit sweaters. Talk about what? I asked. David rubbed his face with both hands. What you're planning to do this morning. I know where you're going. I doubt that, I said. I'm not stupid, Mom, he murmured. Mr. Foster goes behind my back. You suddenly won't answer my calls, and then I see the porch light turn on at 5 a.m. I put 2 and 2 together. He swallowed hard. You're going to the police. I didn't deny it. I didn't confirm it. Silence can be louder than any sermon, and he heard every decibel. David exhaled shakily. Mom, please, don't do this. Don't drag our family's name through the mud. I can fix everything. I swear to you I can. His hands were shaking now. Not dramatic shaking, real shaking, genuine fear. But if you go to the police, it's over. For me, for Patricia, for the girls. The girls, my granddaughters. He knew exactly which string to pull, didn't he? You should have thought about your girls, I said quietly, before forging your mother's name on 6 documents. His jaw clenched. I panicked, okay? I made mistakes. But arrest? Charges? Mom, I'm not a criminal. You don't get to decide that, I replied. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Mom, he whispered, stepping closer. Just give me the folder. Let me handle it. I'll go to the company, I'll retract everything, I'll tear up the documents myself. No police, no reports, just family. I stared at my son, really stared. long enough to see the boy he'd been and the man he'd become battling inside his eyes. And for a moment, just a moment, I almost softened. But then I remembered that note on my doorstep. We can fix this as a family. Fix. Like I was a loose pipe. Like my entire life was a mess he could sweep under the rug as long as nobody found out. "David," I said, "you came to my house last night with a paper already printed. Not a conversation. A decision. One you wanted me to sign before I even had my slippers on. That was different," he insisted. "I was trying to protect all of us." "You were trying to protect yourself." He blinked, stunned by the firmness in my voice. Maybe he hadn't heard me speak to him like a grown man in a long time. "Mom," his voice cracked, just a little. "I don't want you to hate me." "Hate you?" I repeated softly. "David, I carried you on my hip for 3 years. I taught you to tie your shoes, patch a scraped knee, apologize when you lied. Hate you? No. But I sure as heaven won't let you destroy what took me a lifetime to build." His breath hitched, and when he spoke again, the softness was gone. "Please," he whispered. "Don't go." Evelyn's car headlights flashed twice. Our signal. It was time. "I have to go," I said simply. David stepped directly in front of me, blocking my path. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Mom, if you walk past me, everything changes." I tightened my grip on the folder. "Everything already has." I tried to move around him. He grabbed my arm, not hard, not violent, but firm enough to stop me. "David Sullivan," I said, my voice sharp as broken glass, "you take your hand off me right now." He hesitated. 1 second, 2, 3. Then he let go. I walked past him, straightened my coat, and stepped onto the porch. The morning cold bit at my cheeks. I didn't look back, but when I reached the steps, his voice cut through the quiet. "If you go to the police," he said, his voice hollow. "Mom, I won't have a choice." I froze. A choice? A choice to do what? I turned, heart pounding. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer, just stared, eyes empty, face pale, breath fogging in the cold air. And then, slowly, deliberately, he reached into his jacket. When David reached into his jacket, sweetheart, my whole breath locked inside my chest like someone had slammed a door from the inside. I didn't move a muscle. Not because I was scared of him hurting me. Though any mother who tells you she doesn't fear her own child's anger is lying a little. But because I knew sudden movements never helped in moments like that. I'd seen men reach into jackets 1,000 times at the hospital. Some grabbing wallets, some grabbing phones, some grabbing things a whole lot worse. So I stood perfectly still, my fingers tightening around the folder under my coat. "David," I said quietly, "think real carefully about whatever you're about to pull out of that pocket." His hand hesitated, froze. Then, slowly, he took out a piece of paper, folded twice. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Not a weapon. Not a threat like that, but still a threat. He held it toward me with 2 trembling fingers. "I was going to ask you to sign this," he said, voice cracking on the last word. "If you'd just waited. If you'd just trusted me." "I trusted you for 40 years, I replied. "And look where that landed us." He flinched. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he said, swallowing hard. "I'm asking you not to ruin my life." I stared at him, then at the folded paper. "You want me to take it?" "Yes," he whispered. So I did. I reached out slow and took the paper between my fingers. It felt warm from being in his pocket. Warm and damp around the edges, sweaty palms, nervous breathing, pacing all night. I unfolded it carefully. It wasn't a financial form this time, not a power of attorney, not a bank authorization, not a deed transfer. It was a handwritten letter. 2 sentences. "Mom, I messed up. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. Please don't go." Below it, another line, empty, waiting for my signature. He had written me an apology. To sign. "David," I said, lifting my eyes slowly, "you wanted me to sign a note saying I'd never go to the police." "It's not like that," he shot back. It's just proof. Something I can show the company. That you're supporting me. That you're not accusing me. That this is all just a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding? I repeated. Forgery isn't a misunderstanding. Stealing someone's name isn't a misunderstanding. Planning to take their house before they even die, that ain't a misunderstanding either. He clenched his jaw. His eyes glistened, not with guilt, but with fear. Real fear. The kind people feel when the ground starts moving under their feet. I'm begging you, Mom, he whispered. I can't lose everything. Not now. Not for one mistake. One? I asked. One mistake doesn't fill a folder, David. One mistake doesn't get dated, printed, or stamped. One mistake doesn't happen still tomorrow at 8 in the morning. He looked at the ground, breathing hard. I stepped back toward Evelyn's car. He stepped forward. Mom, he said again, if you do this, I don't know what will happen to me. You should have thought about that, I said softly, before you put my life on paper without asking. His face twisted. Then, for the first time since all of this began, he looked angry. Not scared. Not pleading. Angry. As soon as you set foot in that police station, he hissed, it's over. For who? I asked. For all of us. Behind me, I heard Evelyn open the passenger side door. Maggie, she called. We need to go if we want to make it on time. I nodded, walking down the steps. But as my foot hit the bottom one, David called out again. Fine, he shouted. If you're going to choose them over me, then don't expect me to help you when things go bad for you too. I turned slowly. Are you threatening me? He opened his mouth, then closed it, shaking his head with a bitter laugh. Forget it. Just go. Do whatever you want. You always do. That wasn't true. Not one bit. I'd spent my whole life doing what was best for him, but I didn't argue, didn't shout, didn't cry. I simply turned, opened the car door, and got in. As Evelyn pulled away from the curb, I looked back at my porch one last time. David was standing there in the cold, watching us leave, with something in his eyes I had never seen before. Not anger, not fear, not regret. Calculation. Evelyn noticed it too. He's not done, she said quietly. That boy's got something brewing. I know, I whispered, and I need to get ahead of it. The sky was still dark, the horizon only barely turning silver. The town was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. As we reached the intersection near the old church, Evelyn slowed the car. A police cruiser flashed by, lights off, engine fast, heading the same direction we were going. Evelyn glanced at me. That's Officer Drake's car. My stomach twisted. Why? I whispered. Is she driving that fast at 6 in the morning? Evelyn didn't answer. Because she couldn't. Because in that moment I realized something had already happened. Something big enough to pull Helen out before dawn. And whatever it was, it involved my name. When that police cruiser sped past us without lights or sirens, sweetheart, something cold settled in my chest. Police don't rush quietly unless whatever's happening is delicate, dangerous, or involves somebody who shouldn't know the police are coming. And if Officer Helen was out before sunrise, rushing, then something had spun out of control overnight. Evelyn glanced at me, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Maggie, you don't think... I don't know what to think yet, I said, staring at the shrinking glow of those taillights. But whatever it is, it's tied to what's in this folder. I pressed the papers against my ribs, holding them close like they were the last piece of truth I had left in this world. Do me a kindness before I tell you what happened next, honey. Tell me down in the comments which city you're watching from. Sometimes, when nights like these replay in my head, it helps to imagine your city lights keeping me company. We turned onto the main road leading to the station. The town was still quiet, the bakery not open yet, the church dark, the grocery sign flickering its sleepy neon, open at 7. Only the wind moved, rustling the leaves along the sidewalk. Evelyn muttered, "Something's wrong. I can feel it." I could feel it too. Like walking into a hospital room before the monitors start beeping. You sense the trouble before you see it. Halfway to the station, my phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I jumped. Evelyn did too. Unknown number. I answered anyway. "Hello?" A shaky voice whispered, "Mrs. Sullivan?" I recognized that voice instantly. Patricia, David's wife. "Why are you calling me this early?" I asked, already bracing myself. Maggie. Her voice cracked. You need to know something before you go to the police. Evelyn's eyes flew to mine. She mouthed, "Put it on speaker." I did. "Go on," I said. I didn't know David was doing all that," she stammered. "Not until last night. He thought you were going to the company this morning, not the police. He got scared. He kept pacing, saying he needed to get ahead of it." My heart thudded like a drum. "And what does ahead of it mean?" "I don't know," she cried. "He left the house around 4. He wouldn't tell me where he was going. He just said, 'If Mom wants a war, she's going to get one.'" Evelyn gasped. I closed my eyes, breathing slow. "Patricia, did he say anything else?" "Yes." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He said, 'Before she gets to Drake, I'll make sure she can't.'" The words hit me like a blow. Evelyn swerved slightly. "Oh, Lord," Patricia continued, voice trembling. "I tried to call him. He didn't answer. Then I saw the lights in your neighborhood on, and I panicked. I'm sorry if he scared you last night. I'm sorry for everything." Her apology sounded real. But real or not, it wasn't enough to stop the train that had already left the station. "Patricia," I said, "listen to me. If he comes home, don't let him leave again. Don't sign anything. Don't say anything. And don't destroy any documents." "I won't," she whispered. "Please be careful, Maggie. He's not thinking straight." I hung up. Silence filled the car, thick and heavy. Evelyn spoke first. "Your son, he's spiraling." "I know," I whispered. "And Helen knows too. That's why she left the station early." For a second, Evelyn said nothing. Then, "You think she's going to him?" "No," I said slowly. "I think she's going somewhere he went first." We turned the final corner toward the police station, but we never reached the parking lot. Because just before the entrance, 2 police cruisers blocked the road, lights flashing now, silent but blazing red and blue. Yellow tape was being pulled across a sidewalk. Officers moving quickly, flashlights scanning bushes. One officer kneeling beside something. Evelyn slammed on the brakes. "Maggie." Oh God. I felt my breath catch. I opened the car door before she could stop me. "Stay in the car," I told her. "And lock it." "Maggie." "Lock it, Evelyn." She did. I walked toward the commotion slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. My old bones creaked, my breath fogged in front of me, and the folder in my hand felt like it weighed 10 pounds. An officer stepped in front of me. "Ma'am, you can't cross this line." "I'm looking for Officer Drake," I said firmly. Before he could answer, I heard a voice shout behind him, "Maggie, over here!" "Helen." She jogged toward me from the sidewalk, her vest half zipped, her hair pulled back fast, not neat. She looked shaken. "Helen," I said, clutching her arm. "What's happened?" She hesitated, just for a second, but that second felt like a year. "Maggie," she said softly, "someone tried to break into the back entrance of the station this morning." My stomach dropped. "Who?" "We don't know yet," she replied. "But they forced the lock. They were trying to get into the evidence room. One of the interns arrived early and scared them off." I squeezed the folder so tight the edges bent. "Evidence room." Helen nodded. "Anything tied to a financial investigation would be stored there." "David. My son had tried to break into a police station before dawn." "Oh, my Lord," I whispered. "Helen, what if he's—" "We're searching the area," she said. "He left footprints. He was running. Maggie, I think he's desperate. And desperate men make dangerous choices." I closed my eyes. Then Helen added, "We found something at the back door." She reached into her pocket, pulled out a piece of paper in a plastic evidence sleeve. She handed it to me. I recognized the handwriting before I even saw the name. "Mom, you're making a mistake. You'll regret this." My knees went weak. "Maggie," Helen said quietly, "he left this for you." And then, before I could speak, another officer jogged over. "Lieutenant Drake, we found more footprints behind the building." They head toward the woods. Helen's face hardened. "Whose prints?" "Same size as the ones near the lock," he said. "Same tread. Looks like he's hiding somewhere nearby." Helen turned to me. "Maggie," she said, "your son is here." When Helen said, "Your son is here, sweetheart," it felt like the ground under my feet came loose. Not because I feared what he'd do to me, but because I finally understood the size of the storm he'd stirred up. A man who tries to break into a police station before sunrise. He's not just scared, he's unraveling. I drew in a slow breath, the cold morning air burning in my chest. "Where exactly?" I asked, steady as I could manage. Helen pointed toward the small patch of woods behind the station. The same woods children used to play in during summer, chasing fireflies and daring each other to go deeper past the creek. But right then, the trees looked like giant, dark fingers closing around trouble. "He ran through there," Helen said. "We've got officers circling the perimeter, but he knows these woods better than most. We don't want to spook him into doing something reckless." Evelyn had finally gotten out of the car and rushed toward us, her cardigan flapping behind her. "Maggie," she said, breathless, "don't tell me he's hiding," I cut in, "or running, or planning." Helen touched my elbow. "I don't want you to see him like this. Let my team handle it." "No," I said. "You don't understand. If he's spiraling, the only voice he'll listen to right now is mine." She frowned. "That's exactly why I don't want you near him." I looked her square in the eyes. "Helen, for 40 years, every time that boy panicked, he ran to me. Every time he messed up, he came home crying. Every time he felt cornered, he reached for me like the world was ending. If he's out there scared and thinking the police are hunting him, he might do something you can't undo." Helen hesitated. Evelyn squeezed my hand, and I clenched the folder to my chest like armor. Finally, Helen sighed. "All right, but you're not going alone, and you're not getting within 10 feet of him unless I say so." I nodded. She motioned to 2 officers. "We'll sweep the outer edge. Quiet. If we spot movement, we freeze. Maggie speaks first. Nobody draws unless absolutely necessary." The officers nodded, hands resting, but not gripping their holsters. The tension in the air was so thick it felt like you could slice it with a church knife. We headed toward the woods, stepping over fallen branches and patches of frost. The trees were close together, their leaves whispering above our heads. Cold earth under my shoes, birds quiet, like even they felt something was wrong. Halfway in, Helen lifted her hand. Stopped us. Tilted her head. I heard it too. Rustling. Not wind, not an animal, a person. Then a voice. Small, frantic, shaking. "Mom?" I froze. There he was. David stepped out from behind a pine tree, his shirt stained with dirt, his hair wild, one sleeve ripped. He looked smaller somehow, younger, like the scared little boy he'd once been, except with a grown man's mistakes weighing on his shoulders. "David," I said, taking one careful step forward. Helen touched my arm, a reminder to stay behind the invisible line. His eyes darted from the officers to me. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," he said, voice trembling. "I just wanted time. I just needed to fix it before anyone knew." "You tried to break into a police station," Helen said sharply. He flinched. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I just needed to get my hands on the files, okay? To make sure nothing pointed to Mom. I was trying to protect her." I shook my head. "No, son. You were trying to erase the evidence." He wiped his face like he could rub the panic out of it. "Mom, please, I'm begging you. Don't let them take me. You know I'm not a bad person. I just got in too deep. If you tell them, if you say it was all a misunderstanding, if you just back me up." I breathed in slowly. Deep. Long. "David," I said, "backing you up is exactly what got us here." He looked like I'd punched the wind out of him. "You raised me better than this," I added softly. His shoulders slumped. Tears built in his eyes, not the childlike innocent kind. The heavy ones adults shed when they finally see the mess they've made. "Mama," he whispered, "help me." I stepped 1 inch closer, not more, and held the folder up. "This," I said, "is the truth. My truth. Your truth. What you did. What you planned. And what you almost signed this family into." My voice didn't shake. "I'm taking this to the police, David. You need to face what you've done." "No!" he choked. "Please, Mom, please." He took a step toward me. Helen snapped, "David, stop where you are." He ignored her. Another step. The officers froze, hands near their belts. Evelyn gasped softly behind me. He reached out like he wanted to grab me, or the folder, his fingers trembling. "Mom," he pleaded, "don't do this." I felt something inside me crack and harden. "I already did," I whispered. He lunged, not for me, for the folder. Helen shouted, "David, don't!" And before any of us could stop him, he slipped on the wet leaves, lost his balance, and went crashing down the small slope behind us, straight out of sight. All we heard was the thud, and then nothing. The sound of David hitting the ground. Honey, I'll never forget it. It wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic like nose films. It was soft, too soft. A dull thud that made my heart stop beating for a second. Leaves rustled, a branch snapped, and then silence. A silence thick enough to choke the whole forest. "David!" I shouted, my voice louder than it had been in years. Helen was already moving, one hand raised to signal her officers. "Nobody rush," she ordered. "We go slow. He could have hit his head." She crouched and peered over the slope. "I see him. He's breathing. Get the medic kit." I wanted to run down that slope myself, knees and bones be damned. But Helen blocked me gently with one arm. "Let us check him first, Maggie. If he's conscious and panicking, he might try to scramble up again." So I waited. And waiting, sweetheart, is sometimes the hardest thing a mother ever has to do. Finally, after what felt like hours, but must have been 30 seconds, one of the officers called up, "He's okay, bruised, shaken, but conscious." Evelyn exhaled so deeply she bent forward, hands on her thighs. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Lord. Even after everything, thank you." When they helped David climb back up, he didn't look at me. His face was streaked with mud, a cut above his eyebrow bleeding, hands shaking like dry leaves in winter. He didn't seem dangerous anymore. He didn't seem angry. He just looked small. Helen rested a hand on his shoulder. "David Sullivan, you're under temporary detainment. You have the right to remain." He spoke before she finished. "Mom," he croaked. I didn't mean—" "I know," I said softly. "But meaning doesn't erase doing." He swallowed hard, eyes wet. "Are you going to testify?" "That's not a testimony," I said. "That's the truth, and I won't hide the truth, not even to protect you." He winced like the words themselves slapped him. Helen continued reading him his rights, calm and firm. He didn't resist, didn't beg, didn't run again. He just let them place the cuffs on him gently, like a man finally accepting the bill life had been adding up for years. As they walked him toward the cruiser, he turned once more. "Mama, I'm sorry." "I know," I whispered. "But being sorry doesn't fix what you broke. Only facing it does." He nodded once, defeated. Then the door of the cruiser closed, and he disappeared behind the tinted glass. At the station, Helen took my statement personally. Evelyn sat beside me, holding my hand the whole time. Funny how some friends become more like family than family ever was. We reviewed every forged document, every signature that wasn't mine, every date that lined up too perfectly with the lies David had told. As each page was logged, stamped, and copied, I felt something shift inside me. Not relief, not triumph, not revenge. Something steadier, something cleaner. Justice. The kind a woman earns not with fists or shouting, but with backbone and truth. When everything was filed, Helen closed the folder and looked at me with those honest eyes. "You did the right thing, Maggie. Most folks never speak up, not against their own blood." I nodded slowly. A mother's job is to raise her child, not to bury her own truth to protect his mistakes. She squeezed my shoulder. "Your case will hold, and he'll have resources, therapy, legal support, supervised programs. He won't be thrown to the wolves, but he'll face consequences." "As he should," I said. When Evelyn drove me home, the sun was finally rising. Golden light slid across my porch, the same porch where David had sat just hours earlier, begging me to choose silence. I stood there staring at that swing, the chains still swaying gently from the morning wind. "I did everything I could," I whispered. "You did more than most would have had courage to do," Evelyn said. We walked inside. The house felt different now, not safer, not emptier, but reclaimed. Mine again. My life, my name, my story. I took the old folder, now scanned and filed at the station, and slid it into a drawer. Not to hide it, to honor it, because that folder had saved me. That night I sat in my kitchen, holding a cup of chamomile tea, listening to the quiet. And for the first time in a long while, the quiet wasn't frightening, it was freeing. I thought about David, about the boy he was, the man he became, and the man he still might be one day. After the consequences, shape him into something better. Maybe forgiveness will come somewhere down the road when he earns it. Not because blood demands it, but because truth makes space for it. But I'll tell you one thing, sweetheart. Justice isn't cruelty, and mercy isn't weakness. They're sisters, walking side by side, and that morning, I walked with both. Now, before I end this story, honey, I want to ask you something from the bottom of my heart. Tell me in the comments, from which city are you listening to this story? I'd love to know how far my voice traveled today.